Welcome back to Everyday Tech Explained. Today, we're diving into Samsung Dex. Could this be the tech that lets you ditch your laptop and just use your phone?
It's a bold claim for sure.
We'll be exploring that question today based on a ZDNet article by Carrie Wan, specifically focusing on their experience with the Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra. If you're as excited about this as I am, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Now let's unpack this whole Dex revolution thing.
Replacing your laptop entirely. But Dex has been steadily evolving since it debuted back in 2017.
Okay, but for those who haven't heard of it, what exactly is Dex?
Imagine this, you connect your Samsung phone to a monitor, maybe even wirelessly, and boom, you have a desktop-like interface powered by your phone, that's Dex. You get a taskbar window resizing the whole 9 yards.
So is it literally just plug and play? That's almost too easy.
Well, not entirely. First, it's important to note that Dex isn't supported on every Samsung phone. There's a compatibility list out there. But for today, we're focusing on the S25 Ultra. As for setup, you've got options. Wired connection through USB-C to HDMI is common. But some newer models support wireless Dex too. And of course, you'll want a Bluetooth keyboard and mouse for that true desktop feel.
Wait, I've heard you can use the phone's screen as a trackpad.
You can, it's a neat trick. But there's no clicking or haptic feedback, so it takes some getting used to. Not ideal for precise work, but great in a pinch.
So I'm connected, I got my peripherals, and Dex mode is activated. Does it actually feel like a desktop OS?
It's surprisingly intuitive even for first-time users. You get that familiar Windows-esque layout with window snapping, a taskbar, easy app access. It's designed to be user-friendly, and honestly, they've done a great job.
That's a relief. The last thing you want is to wrestle with a clunky interface when you're trying to be productive. The article mentioned the writer used Dex for all sorts of tasks, like writing emails, even video editing. Was there anything Dex just couldn't handle?
There are limitations, of course. You're still running Android apps just on a bigger screen, so something like Chrome or YouTube adapts beautifully. But other apps stay stuck in their friendship windows. It's more of a visual quirk than a functional problem, though.
That makes sense. But what about more demanding tasks? The article mentioned photo editing. But surely there are limits to what Android apps can do compared to professional software, right?
Exactly. The writer used Lightroom and Premiere Rush, which are powerful mobile apps, but they lack the depth of their desktop counterparts. No fancy plugins or extensions for Dex, so if your workflow relies on those, it might not be the ideal solution.
Okay, so it's not going to replace a powerful workstation anytime soon. But for everyday tasks, it sounds pretty promising. Did the article mention any unexpected benefits to using Dex?
There were a few interesting perks. The writer loved the synchronized notifications. No more switching between devices to stay on top of things. Drag and drop file transfer from the phone's gallery was another plus, especially for visual content.
And I've heard you can even use your phone's camera as a webcam with Dex. It's not a dedicated webcam, but still pretty handy.
It is, though you will be stuck with vertical video calls. But that's some minor inconvenience compared to the flexibility it offers.
All in all, Dex seems to be a pretty compelling package. But the big question remains, can it really replace a laptop for the average user?
That's what we're here to find out. Let's dive deeper into the pros and cons, and maybe even compare it to other mobile computing solutions. So we've talked about the core Dex experience, but let's get practical. Using your phone as a trackpad might be novel for a few minutes, but for extended work sessions.
My wrist is already cramping just thinking about it.
Exactly. That's where peripherals come in. A good Bluetooth keyboard and mouse are essential for comfort and productivity. And then there are docking stations, a game changer for a truly streamlined setup.
Docking stations. I'm intrigued. What makes them so special for Dex?
Think of it as a central hub for all your connections. Plug in your monitor, keyboard, mouse, even external drives, all through the docking station. No more cable clutter on your desk. Some even have built-in cooling fans to prevent your phone from overheating, which can be an issue when you're really pushing Dex to its limits.
That's smart. And speaking of pushing limits, what about those laptop shells I've seen? They actually make your phone look like a mini laptop, right?
You got it. Laptop shells are essentially cases with a built-in keyboard trackpad, and sometimes even extra battery capacity. It's the best of both worlds. Portability of a phone with the familiar feel of a laptop.
I'm sensing a theme here. Dex is all about options. Wireless docking stations, laptop shells. It's like they've thought of everything.
And it's not just the hardware. Samsung is constantly updating the Dex software, improving performance, adding features, and expanding compatibility. They're clearly invested in making Dex a viable computing platform.
That commitment is crucial. I mean, if this is going to challenge the laptop market, it can't just be a one-off gimmick.
Right. Absolutely. And as phones become even more powerful and 5G connectivity becomes the norm, the lines between phones and traditional computers will continue to blur.
It's almost like we're witnessing the early stages of a paradigm shift in computing.
It's an exciting time to be following this evolution, that's for sure. But Dex isn't just about productivity, it also excels in unexpected areas like gaming.
Oh, yeah. The article mentioned cloud gaming. So with a stable internet connection and a Bluetooth controller, I could literally play AAA games on my phone using Dex.
You got it. The processing happens in the cloud, so your phone doesn't need powerful hardware to handle demanding games. It's like having a gaming PC in your pocket. Only you're playing on a big screen thanks to Dex.
Okay, that's seriously impressive. Now I'm wondering how the cloud gaming experience on Dex compares to dedicated consoles. Is there a noticeable difference in performance or latency?
That's a great question. And it largely depends on your internet connection. With a solid 5G connection, the experience can be surprisingly smooth with minimal latency. Of course, a dedicated console with its own dedicated hardware will always have an edge in terms of raw power and graphics fidelity.
Right, so there are trade-offs. But for casual gamers or those who prioritize portability, Dex could be a great option.
Absolutely. And for those who are into retro gaming, Dex also supports emulator.
Emulators. Now you're talking my language. Remind me what those are again?
Think of it as bringing your old game consoles back to life. Emulators let you play games from classic systems like the Super Nintendo or PlayStation. Right on your phone, hook it up to Dex, pair a Bluetooth controller, and it's like stepping back in time.
So I could relive my childhood gaming days on the big screen. Sign me up.
It's a fantastic way to experience those classics, but beyond the nostalgia factor, it speaks to the broader potential of Dex. It's taking activities we typically associate with other devices and bringing them to our phones.
It's like the ultimate convergence device. I'm starting to see why some people believe Dex could be the future of computing.
It's a compelling argument for sure. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's address the elephant in the room. Is Dex truly a viable laptop replacement right now?
So we've explored the features, the perks, and even the unexpected gaming capabilities of Dex. But is it time to ditch our laptops and embrace the phone as PC revolution?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? I think it depends on your individual needs and workflow. For someone who relies on specialized software or demanding applications, a traditional laptop or desktop is still the way to go. But for a growing segment of users, their daily computing needs revolve around web browsing communication, content consumption, and light productivity tasks. For those users, Dex offers a compelling alternative.
I can see that. The portability and convenience factor alone is huge. Imagine traveling with just your phone and a lightweight portable monitor. No bulky laptop bag, no security hassles at the airport.
Exactly. And with 5G networks becoming more widespread, you can have that desktop-like experience virtually anywhere with a decent internet connection. It's a level of freedom we haven't seen before in computing.
But let's be realistic. There are still some drawbacks to consider. The lack of plug-in support is a big one, and not every Android app scales well to a larger screen. Plus, there's the learning curve of adapting to a new interface and workflow.
Those are valid concerns, but I think it's important to remember that Dex is still a relatively young technology. It's come a long way in a short time, and Samsung seems committed to its development. As mobile processors continue to improve and developers optimize their apps for Dex, those limitations may become less significant over time.
That's an interesting point. It's almost like we're judging Dex based on today's standards, but the real question is what will it be capable of in a few years?
Precisely. And I think that's where the real excitement lies. Dex isn't just a product, it's a glimpse into the future of computing. A future where our phones become the central hub for all our digital needs, seamlessly transitioning between mobile and desktop experiences.
It's a future I'm definitely intrigued by. And if Dex is any indication that future might be closer than we think. Well, that wraps up our deep dive into Samsung Dex. We covered a lot of ground from the basic features and setup to the more advanced capabilities and future possibilities.
It's a fascinating technology with a lot of potential. Whether or not you're ready to ditch your laptop entirely is a personal decision, but Dex is certainly worth exploring.
Absolutely. Now, we want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on Dex? Could it work for your needs? Are you in the market for a phone that supports this feature? Let us know in the comments below.
And don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more explorations into the world of everyday tech.
This has been Everyday Tech Explained. Thanks for joining us, and until next time, stay curious.